I'm sort of curious, though, for you, do you think Trump's done anything positive since he was elected?
Has he done anything positive? Let me
Yeah.
think on that for 1 second. I would say yes, he has, for sure.
Okay.
I think there are vacuums within the Democratic Party that he was able to fill, but he takes it way, way, way too far. For example, Biden's inaction on the border for the first 3 years, arguably 4 years of his term, led to this vacuum that Donald Trump was unable to fill. And now he's deporting people, I would argue, without due process in an aggressive, reckless manner in certain areas. But I do think that his rhetoric had a solid effect. Like, he was trying to use preventative rhetoric, trying to stop people from coming over, and it's worked. We've seen crossings drop a lot. So if that's an end goal, then yeah, he did a really good job at doing that. I'm trying to think of other things. I'm sure there are, like, when we talk about the bill that's coming up, the entire bill isn't bad. I'm not going to write off the entire bill. It's okay if you want to extend the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act so that people don't have a tax increase. But again, the contention is they kind of take it too far when they strip Medicaid away, or they target the House Energy and Commerce Committee to take money from, and that sort of redistributes it. So I'm not going to say that like extending the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is bad in and of itself. That's not inherently bad. But the end result of what happens after that, I think, is kind of scary. In his first term, I know this is such a cop-out, but Operation Warp Speed was awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
he hates that, though. He'll never talk about it. The one thing. He got us a vaccine and, like, lickety split, right?
Yeah. Overall, I think he just oversteps. And I don't think that's even controversial that Trump takes aggressive actions. I think Trump even sort of admitted that himself a few days ago. And he was like, my great farmers have been calling me and saying that they're losing their best workers or whatever. So I just feel like, yes, he's done a good job in some places. I'm pretty firmly center left. So I'm not going to say that the entire bill is terrible, but the redistribution of wealth to the richest of the rich is not okay. Taking away Medicaid from vulnerable communities is not okay. There's a hidden clause in there that says you can't hold Trump admin officials on contempt charges, I think. Not okay. The climate initiatives that he's rolling back, not okay. I mean, I'll disagree with 98% of his stuff, but to say blanket that he hasn't done anything good would be very, very, like, I would be generalizing a lot.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your honesty on that. I doubt you often answer that question.
I feel like I yapped and didn't really give you a clear thing. I'd have to think about it more.
No. You did, actually. You gave a lot of interesting points, and I agree with the deterrence at the border. Just the idea that if you show up, you're probably not going to stay. That helped to lower the numbers because immigration was a top issue for people. Why do you think, though, that the Democrats just left the border open for so long?
I reject the framing that the border was entirely open, but that's not even an important point to debate. I get what you're trying to say. Like, I think that here's my answer. When you see a clip of Obama in 2012 talking about the border, in a roundabout way, he actually sounds sort of a hard ass, kind of like Trump, but just without
He deported more people than Trump per day.
Yeah. But Trump uses more bombastic authoritarian rhetoric.
He started the family separation program.
Yeah. But the thing is, Obama doesn't go up there and say that they're all like rapists, murderers, and illegals. And Obama wouldn't use that rhetoric. And I'd like to think Obama at least still had a humane view of these things. And then I think the Democrats were overreactionary to the Trump era. This would be my analysis on the spot. I'd have to think about it a little bit more, but this would be my analysis on the spot. When Trump comes into power and starts saying that immigrants are murderous, rapists, drug dealers, whatever you want to say, those overgeneralizations obviously just are not good. It's not good to dehumanize or to have an outgroup like that. And I think that Democrats took a reactionary stance and didn't really know how to reclaim that Obama era immigration rhetoric. Because then if Biden would have come out and used those Obama lines, people would have been like, you sound exactly like Trump, blah, blah, blah. So a combination of having Biden, who wasn't the best at articulating our beliefs during his term. I mean, he wasn't the best at defending his policy for obvious reasons. That combined with Democrats being a little bit reactionary after the Trump era aggressiveness around immigration.
Remain in Mexico worked.
Wait, say that again.
Remain in Mexico worked.
Yeah, it did.
And they stopped it in February 2021.
I also think that the border being open is kind of a red herring, though. Wasn't immigration across the planet kind of a mess during COVID and during the COVID years? Obviously, Biden could have used stronger rhetoric, but I don't know if they left the border open when a lot of the problem was asylum seeking, right? Which means people are going through the proper processes.
Right. But people get, it incentivized people to move to cross the border as well.
Yeah.
The fact
Yeah.
that, people, they are aware of the president who's coming into office, their policies, and they make those decisions when they're deciding whether to come into the country or not. Right. But I do want to get back to this whole idea, though, about Trump being loved. He really does love being loved in the same way that he loves the press and would kill for fawning press. Like they used to print out, this is one of the first stories I broke when I was at Politico back in 2017. His team would print out positive stories about him and feed it to him every morning so that he had a positive mood, his positive media diet. And they would just show him like, it'd be like the Daily Caller or Breitbart, and it would make him feel really good. And someone that I spoke to this weekend who has known Trump for 2 decades, maybe longer than that, said, I bet this Stephen Miller policy on immigration is probably starting to irk him a little bit. That he doesn't like, there's a part of it that he likes. He likes the strongman, presentation. He likes to show that he's going into big cities and breaking up crime and keep, lawfare, this and that, keeping, keeping the streets clean, even though honestly, I think it is actually, it's antagonizing people in a lot of ways. But, when you hear him do the walk back on the farm or on the immigrant farm workers, or you hear him do the walk back on the migrant farm workers, the migrant workers at hotels.
Yep.
I mean, I was looking at a story in the New York Times from, I think it was 2018, about the woman who was on an H-2B visa, who had been cleaning, she was his personal maid for decades. And he hires these people at his properties, Mar-a-Lago, Bedminster, all of his properties. They are run on the backs of migrant workers. And I think he's conflicted on this one as much as he wants to seem like a hardo. And I think he's pushed by Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon, and then he has to walk it back, like you saw. And he realizes that what we really need is immigration reform. And unfortunately, there is no one in this Congress that has the backbone to do it, at least on the right, but even on the left too. I mean, they have certain demands that the right won't agree to. And I think that meeting in the center is just something that no one is really willing to do. Maybe a small amount, but that doesn't make a majority, right?
Yeah, I entirely agreed with your analysis. I think until the point where you said he realized that we need immigration reform. I do think Stephen Miller is pushing him to be more hardline on immigration than he actually is. We see that with a lot of issues, but I don't even know if he cares about immigration reform. Obviously, the argument would be that he got Congress to shoot down Lankford's bill back in 2023, was that?
Yeah, a political tactic so that he could be reelected, right?
Yeah, I don't think he cares about reform. I actually would argue that Democrats care more about reform. And here's the thing, just to really quickly back up and clarify. I am okay with deporting people if they are a criminal and if they're here illegally and they've committed crimes repeatedly. Of course, I'm not going to push back against that. Deporting criminals, like people who have genuinely committed crimes, is fine. But I think like the removal of TPS from people when you promised you wouldn't do that, or I think that like going into some of these more people that are just working, genuinely just trying to work and make a living, I think that's when it starts to step over the line. So I want to give a nuanced position there and say that like as a Democrat, I'm okay with the deportations, of course. But going back to Trump being pushed a little bit too far, yeah, I think that Stephen Miller is influencing his policy in a way that's making him more unpopular. And it's interesting. Sorry, what's up?
No, I was just thinking the same thing. And he likes those poll numbers.
And I was right about to say, immigration, or at least the border, was the one thing he was above water on in almost every poll, and now there are polls showing that he's below water. So I've heard theories that he could use Stephen Miller as a scapegoat and push him out. I don't quite know if that's going to happen. I know Trump does like to do that with some people. What do you think?
Stephen's been around for a while.
So he wouldn't do that?
It's over a decade now.
Okay.
And Steven is the MAGA right loves Steven.
Yeah.
And he's playing a dance right now, because I think at the same time, the reason you saw him even kind of like do this dance where he's like, I'm going into big cities and I'm busting up big cities, but I'm going to keep the farm workers because that's the red state flyover people. You know, that's a reaction to the right freaking out about him saying we're going to keep certain H-2B workers or migrant workers. So he's playing a delicate dance. I don't think he will ultimately get rid of Stephen Miller, because he is an icon to the MAGA right. I mean, Trump was a Democrat at one time, right? Yeah. I wonder sometimes what he even thinks about someone like Pete Hegseth removing Harvey Milken's name from a warship, you know, a decorated naval officer. It's just like, you know, Trump in his day used to hang out, like Roy Cohn was his boy, and he was openly gay.
He was kind of openly gay. He was kind of closeted, though.
He was a little closeted, but it just, I mean, you know what, though? People, when they get older, they get really conservative, too. So I can't say, oh, just because he was like that in the 80s and 90s, he's the same guy today.
I think, so you know him better than I do, obviously, but I think Trump, like in a personal sense, too, I think Trump is fully bought in on a lot of the cultural stuff today. I think he thinks like trans issues have gone too far, in the universities are really like leftist right now.
A lot of people would agree with him on the trans issues have gone too far thing.
I think when he tweeted today, the Democratic politicians want transgender for everyone. He's obviously using inflammatory rhetoric, but he thinks that it's like a massive, massive issue. And yes, you can argue that in certain areas, the trans issues went too far, but Republicans also blow it the hell up.
Oh, like, yeah, it's a 2080 issue or 1090 even.
Which part of it?
Like, I think 10% of Democrats are really that worked up about it.
Oh, yeah. I think that, so a good example that I give is Sarah McBride, the transgender congresswoman who came in. She had this philosophy: I want to keep my head down. I don't really want to make my identity a part of my, you know, political career that much when I'm in Congress. But right as she came in, Republicans introduced this bill about her, kind of just like micro-targeting her.
So nasty.
And what it did is it blew it up into this national cycle. And I know like Fox News people, I grew up in Indiana, so I know Fox News people that just know a lot about Sarah McBride for some reason. And I'm like, why are you, like, go enjoy Father's Day. Why are you thinking about Sarah McBride today? So I feel like Republicans planted in people's heads. But yes, a lot of Democrats bit the bullet. But this goes back to what we were saying earlier. I think it was more like Democratic, like, not even Democratic act, far left activists who were pushing the party rather than, I don't know if Biden in a top-down way was taking it too far, but I guess I've heard the argument that he was doing meetings with trans activists that people think was that were unacceptable. But going back to the point, what was the point I was making right before I got sidetracked? I can't.
The Trump is not that he.
This is what I think. Yeah. Trump is bought into a lot of the social stuff. He thinks that Democrats are super woke and that college campuses are taken over by radical people. And you can argue if that's true or not, but I don't think he cares if someone's gay. I don't think Trump cares if someone, obviously not. I actually don't think he cares if someone's trans. I know he's friends with Caitlyn Jenner, but I think he just does it to amass, obviously, the power base and to shift the culture over. But yeah, overall, I think he's pretty bought in. He's a true believer on some of it.
Some of it. I think some of it he knows is red meat.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
He's an entertainer at the end of the day.
You know that one clip where he's like, every time I talk about trans issues, the crowd goes crazy, but then I talk about the economy and no one cares, or he says something like that. So he knows.
The guy stays up all night thinking about Shark Week, okay?
Yeah.
I think that's all you need to know. Shark Week, his mind is cable news, Shark Week, Hannibal Lecter, electric boats, windmills, golf.
Yeah.
Rinse and repeat.
And a little bit of Joe Biden. He thinks about Joe Biden a lot.
He used to think about Obama a lot. He doesn't like to be compared to his predecessor.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I'm a competitive person, especially when I'm in a field and I have competitors. I get the competitiveness for sure. But
can we jump off so I can get some of your tips? I've been dying to hear from that. Get some from you because you're a killer in this game.
Let me do a quick outro. It was great chatting with you, Tara. Let's chat more. You know what I liked about it is that we both learned from each other, but we were also kind of pushing back on each other. It's always a good vibe.
I prefer to have a little debate.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want, you know what? I like to sit across from someone and feel like I've learned something from them, and maybe they've learned something from me, and we can all just kind of step away from it, not being like, I owned him, he owned me. It was just like, oh, wow, I didn't think about it that way, and I'm happy that I did.
Great conversation. Let's do it again.
I would love that. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the Tara Palmeri Show. I want to thank my producer, Eric Aminate, my booker, Jane Fusco, my team of researchers and social media. That's Abby Baker, Luke Radel, and Sarah Carney. I'll be back again this week, but you can always find my reporting by going to tarapalmeri.com. That's TARAPALMERI.com, and signing up for my newsletter, The Red Letter, where you will get my exclusive reporting straight to your inbox. See you again soon.